Hey Cancer, how are you? It's me, Lauren B. Welcome to the Untitled Tarot. As always, Cancer, these readings are timeless. So whenever you get here is whenever you get here. And all 12 of the zodiac sign readings, they're all for you. So go by title, go by timestamp, bop around, go wherever you're called. This is the second time I'm trying to record your reading, Cancer. It's like doggy daycare outside. I don't know who warranted it, but I did not sign off. And you know, it's interesting because I was just filming your last reading and I was talking about how it's like, you really like released a lot of stuff and it's like you're finally sitting in a place where it's like you're feeling a lot more peaceful and you're feeling a lot more open and all these new things are starting to like funnel in for you, right? This like spiritual spring matching up with the natural spring. And as soon as I started talking about it, all the dogs like went crazy. It's like very distracting that I had to stop the video and start it all over again. So that might be something that you're experiencing right now, Cancer, is that you're really like making peace with a lot of shit and you're letting it go and you're like kind of sitting in like a moment of surrender and you're feeling like you can finally take a breath of fresh air and like see the possibilities in front of you. And it's the second that you like go into that release state, it's like some bullshit pops up, like something pops up across your feed, or somebody gives you some kind of information about maybe someone from the past that like you don't need to know, right? It's like right when you're in that moment of surrender, like something wants to come in and like distract you from it or like rain on your parade, that kind of thing. And it is important to remember that like lower vibrational entities and energies, right? Even ones coming from other people who maybe aren't as awakened or ascended or empathic, right? As you are, they might not realize that. They might not realize that, that they're sharing too much, that it's actually is it a card just flippy floppy? I think it did. We're gonna keep that up. That they might actually be, thinking almost like they're doing you a favor by giving you some kind of information, but it's like you're past it. You don't need that information. So you might actually have to express some boundaries with some people, places, and things right now, being like, you know what, I don't need to hear about that person. I don't need to hear about that old job. I don't need to hear anything through the grapevine. Keep me out of the grapevine. All right, just I'm not doing the Motown thing right now. Just keep me out of the grapevine. Like I'm on to the next. I'm on to the new thing. Let me stay in my happy place. So I'm going to use the Tarot of the Old Path for you. Let's pray, and then we'll start pulling more cards for you. I did have one just fly out. Father God, thank you for bringing me my Cancerians in today. I ask that you give me wisdom, clarity, and discernment to deliver these messages accurately for Cancer's highest of love, light, alignment, and assignment. We praise you, we love you, we thank you always. We give you all the glory and the honor for these messages. To the utmost high, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen, Cancer. So your little flippy flopper is you have the Six of Pentacles. This is really nice. This talks about a reciprocal kind of give and take. It's also a very charitable energy, which is nice. It's a very like live and let live sort of thing. And I think this is also you knowing that whatever you pay into, that's what you kind of receive back. So if you keep paying time, attention, energy into the past, wondering what people are doing, even engaging in lower vibrational activities like gossiping or rehashing past experiences that aren't serving you or don't apply to you in the present, that's what you're going to get back. You're going to get more of the old the more you think about the old, the more you invest in it, the more you talk about it. But by sitting in a more open, generous, forgiving sort of energy, paying it forward, right, as opposed to paying it backward, that you're going to receive more from the new. The more energy you focus in on the new, the more energy you're going to receive from the new. The more you pour into the past, the more you're just going to get back from the past. But that's a little bit of a been there, done that. And I was saying in the reading that I had just tried to start for you is that I felt like you would finally stop putting your hand over the fire. You finally stop putting your hands over the fire. You're like, you know what, every time I check up on this person, every time I think about this thing, past the point of integration and shadow work and acceptance and all that, right? Like all of the stages of grief, you've worked through them and you've reached acceptance now. Every time I try and put my hand over the fire, I just burn myself. I don't need to do that. I want to heal and I want to move forward. I don't even want a stove anymore. Give me a convection oven. Let's move to the oven. I don't want the stove anymore. It's like a totally different thing. And you have the Nine of Swords in reverse too, which is coming out of stress and anxiety, and oftentimes it's like sleepless nights. It's things that just like screw with your head. Like it's a state of being like unrested, restlessness as well, right? And this is you deciding not to pay into anything that's going to cause you stress and anxiety, anything that's not going to build you up, Buttercup, anything that's going to let you down. It's off the menu for the time being, because the Ten of Pentacles, I just keep pulling off the bottom of the deck. There's a lot of bottom of the deck energy that's been coming. I feel like that's been happening for Rob too. The Ten of Pentacles, this is like full establishment, right? Yes, this can be marriage and family and that kind of stability, but this also talks about financial stability. This talks about having a solid community, a home life. This is also generational, right? This is trying to break patterns that you grew up with, that you've seen in your social circle, that you've seen perhaps in your professional life, so that way you can create a new standard, a new blueprint that not only you get to live and benefit by, but as well as the community, the family at large, that will trickle down for new generations. Right? If you come from a family where people stay in unhappy relationships because it provides them some kind of financial security, this is you breaking that and deciding to stay alone and stay in your happy, peaceful place until you find someone that can add to it, not complete it, but can add to it. Not complete it, but contribute to it, which will create a different vibrational alignment that your kids and their kids can kind of live under. It's being a role model. That's what it feels like. It is a bit of a heavy burden to become the first of your kind, Cancer, to become a role model that you yourself didn't have, right? Because there aren't really a lot of examples for you to walk in those footsteps, but that's the point, is that your footsteps are the pioneer. You're the kind of pioneer footsteps into a new vibration, into a new alignment, into a new kind of love, and a new kind of way of living, and a new perspective, right? Glass half full as opposed to glass half empty. Stop pouring into cups that have a hole at the bottom of it, right? It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. And a lot of this has to do with, part of this glass half full pioneer perspective is actually bringing in a little bit of the rationale, because sometimes we get so engrossed in the spiritual emotional process that we forget that all things have to be in balance. That includes practicality and logic as well, because on your Shufflemancy you had this song by Arlisa called Old Love, and there's this lyric in it that goes, well, so what? Everybody grows up. Stop picking the phone up. Right? And that almost feels a little like cold. Like when you're in this kind of community, when you're on your work, it feels a little cold, right? Like, well, what do you mean, so what? It's like, yeah, well, so what? Imagine when you dated someone and you were 18 years old and you thought that they were your stars and your moon, and you broke up and you thought it was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you, and then a decade passed and you realized for sure it wasn't. That other people came, other people left, there were other experiences, there were good times, there were the best of times, there were the worst of times, right? It's like also adding in that practical and logical perspective. It's like, you know what, sometimes people grow up. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes you don't align with situations, with jobs, with communities, friends anymore. And you just stop calling each other, and that's okay. And the Page of Swords had, in reverse, had come up in the first spread that I just pulled for you. And I only got the Ace of Swords in reverse. Beautiful. And I had only got, I think, like a card or two in. And it was the idea that, you know, sometimes we don't have all the answers. Sometimes the apologies don't come. Sometimes the closure doesn't come. Sometimes we don't know why things went wrong. Sometimes we don't know why people act the way they do. And sometimes, despite all of the shadow work and all of the ascension, we can't figure out why we made decisions that we made, right? Because we're not the same people that we were back then. And sometimes it's like the detective work has to cease. You have to cease doing then the Nancy Drew Hardy Boy kind of activity, so that way you can like take on new mysteries of the universe. You can explore yourself, who you are now. It's sometimes when we're, how do I explain this? It's like trying to understand why you did things when you're not that person anymore. So it's really trying to figure out almost like why a stranger did things a certain way. Right? Because you don't resonate with the old you. The old you aligned with that situation because the old you needed that lesson. And over time, you've grown, you've evolved into this new version of yourself, this new chain breaker, role model, pioneer, realizing that peace is priceless and people can't buy it off of you, right? That of course there are some things that happened in the past that you're not going to understand. And also, like I was kind of relating back to old relationships, like from decades ago or years and years ago, is that sometimes, little aspects, why did that happen? And because time has passed. So it's like, sometimes there is, a purpose to forgetfulness, right? It's almost like, interesting. It's almost like when, a mother has a child, right? And it's like this chaotic, traumatic, painful experience, but then she holds this new thing, this new life, and she completely really kind of forgets, like all the pain, everything kind of goes out of her mind because she has this new thing to be excited about. And that seems to be a little bit of what's been happening for you, that by not putting your hands over the fire, doing some of the internal work, doing some of the shadow work, that you're now able to kind of release that stuff and sit in a place of peace, so that way you can receive your new life, you can receive your new timeline, you can elevate into it, this new spring kind of energy. Two of Rods, right? Picking a new path. And what I love about this Two of Rods in this deck is that he's on stilts, right? It's like you can choose the path that is best for you by gaining a higher perspective. So not judging yourself so much or feeling like you have to be changed to situations that you made when you were still on ground level, right? Now you're higher up, so you can perceive new options in front of you and which ones are good for you and which ones maybe might be a little bit more of an unnecessary detour, because you know how to take a step back, not go entirely off of your emotions, not go entirely off of your instinct, right? And the thing that always sticks out to me about this card is that he has these little shoes. You see these little shoesies and how they're connected to his knees. Symbolically, that talks a lot about humility, because oftentimes people pray on their knees. I don't, because I'm old, but it is a thing people do. So it's directly connected to your humility. It's the idea of, you know what, I don't exactly know how everything's going to turn out. Because sometimes we'll meet a person or we'll be introduced to a situation or into a community, a social group, a job, and be like, this is it. I'm going to be in this place forever. And then you're not. And then you feel like an idiot because you thought you were super intuitive, right? All of the water signs especially are incredibly intuitive. So this is also going into situations very humble and without expectation, knowing, well, I'm going to go into this with an open mind. I'm going to take a higher perspective. I'm going to choose the best path that seems like it aligns with me emotionally, physically, spiritually, logically, practically, right? And then I'm going to see what comes. I'm not going to be kind of so prideful or let my ego lead the way that I know exactly how this situation is going to go, because that kind of energy has played me out of my position before. So I'm going to go in very humble and I'm just going to see what happens. And if my intuition and if I feel like I got a word from the Lord, he tells me to move in another direction, I'll move in another direction. If he tells me to stay put, I'll stay put. But I'm going to take it as it goes. It's like baby steps. Baby steps a little bit. Because they're bringing me back to like younger relationships, like when you're, because that song was called Old Love. Like I remember being 18, 22, 24 in relationships and everything was so impulsive, right? It was like, I see you, I'm obsessed with you, let's go out, you're my moon, you're my stars, now we're broken up, oh no, what happened, let me hold on. Like everything was like a telenovela, right? But now that I'm older, like I have the ability to like take my time, let me feel out this situation, let me read the energy, let me vibe check it, let me see what kind of information, what kind of behaviors present themselves to me. Like it's not everything is like all in, head over feet, first and foremost, right? It's a little bit, there's a little bit more like common sense behind there, right? A little bit like, well, so what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I'll just go in and I'll just see, right? And that takes a certain level of emotional and spiritual maturity as well, knowing, well, if this isn't a job for me, well, then that's because God has a better job for me. If this isn't my person, well, then that's because God's got a better person for me. Like, right? If this isn't the house, if this isn't the apartment, well, then there's another one. They got bay windows. I'm excited about it. Show me where it is, Lord. Lead the way. And again, that comes from humility, trusting that there is a bigger plan, there is a blueprint, and whatever you can't figure out or understand for yourself, it doesn't really matter because it's already been figured out for you. You just have to align all of the elements within you. Again, the practical, the rational, the spiritual, and the emotional all together. No element left unturned. I feel like you want me to take this card, so I'm going to take this card. Yes, the Death card. It's the Closed card in reverse. Now, upright, the Death card really talks about transformation. It's like a butterfly. But in reverse, it really talks about finality. Finality. And, you know, it's interesting because it feels like this perspective card, the choosing the path, is going in a completely separate direction. So again, this is kind of reiterating, not putting your hand back over the fire, not trying to give CPR to dead situations, not trying to water plots of land that you don't belong to anymore, right? At the negation of being able to plant seeds in new areas of your life. This is letting things that are done be done. And it's so hard to do that. It really is hard to do that. And I had mentioned this, I think, in a live stream that I did on TikTok, and I actually believe it was for a Scorpio reading. And I was saying that so often we always tell people to let go, let go, let go. And it's so hard for people to do that, right? And I was talking about that at the beginning of this reading, that sometimes even if a situation was painful or if it was traumatic or if it was disappointing, we'll still hold on to that little piece of that hurt. We would almost rather sit with that hurt and that disappointment because it's the only thing that we have left of a person, or it's the only thing that we have left of a situation or a time in our life or a phase that we went through. And if we were to release that hurt, then that situation would really be final. It would really be done. And so sometimes we keep pain as a souvenir because it's all we have left, right? And I had that revelation one day and it like really jacked me up a little bit. But realizing that, I understood why a lot of us can't let things go sometimes. It's not that we don't want the new things. It's not that we don't want to be blessed with new love and new opportunities and new paths and all of these beautiful things. It's that when we release that hurt, because it's all that we have left of that situation, of that time, then not only do a piece of us die, the piece of us that no longer really exists, it's like the phantom of your old self. But that situation, that person's really gone then. And that can be really, really hard. But when you realize that, then you can make a conscious decision whether to hold on to it or whether to release it in full faith and trust that that space inside of you will be replaced with purpose, will be replaced with someone that is in a better of alignment for you, will be replaced, renewed, restored with better opportunities that are more reflective of the inner work that you've done and also more reflective of the higher timeline that you've ascended into, right? Wow, the Emperor. Happy Aries season. The Emperor, this is total empowerment. And the Seven of Rods, beautiful. Seven of Wands talks a lot about boundaries, but it also talks about standing your ground, like planting the flag in a new place and being like, I will not move from this spot. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. This song came up, okay, they're bringing in a song. This song came up in another reading. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe it was your old reading. It's called Silver Linings by Rilo Kiley. And the very beginning of the song, she goes, I'm not going back into rags or in the hole. And that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting off of this, right? It's like really wanting to power up, be empowered in a timely fashion. It's like not later, it's not next week, it's now. It's wanting to harness the fire energy that we have available to us right now to relight the furnace that is in you, the driving force. And the thing about the Emperor is that he's able to harness all of the elements. He knows that he's been through a lot of shit, right? He knows that he can handle a lot of weight on his back, but he also knows that he can handle a lot of the blessings coming forward to him. And kings take their thrones through force. But the Emperor doesn't just have force. He doesn't just have brawn. He also has brains, male or female, right? Just energy we're harnessing. That the Emperor takes an empire, not just a kingdom, by force. He takes an entire empire by also adding intellect, rationale, practicality in with the passion and the fire and the emotional aspect that goes in to kind of claiming some kind of land, which then you have to defend. It's the idea, a little bit like when I was filming, I got like 5 minutes into your first reading and I was talking about your peace, finally sitting in a place of like peace and I can finally breathe and I feel like there's been a weight that's lifted off my shoulders. And then the dog started barking outside, right? And it was like very distracting and it was almost a little irritating. And I had to sit here and I had to be like, no, this is Cancer's time. It's time for their reading. The energy feels right. This is obviously a sign, something to do with what's going on with them, right? But it's the idea of planting that flag of, no, I'm not going back. Like I made this decision that I'm sitting in the new. I made this decision that I'm ready to receive my new love, my new opportunities, the new doors to be open. And I will not move from this place. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to abandon my new season, my new timeline, my new territory, just so I can go check on the past, right? Going back to the Six of Pentacles. The more you pay into the past, the more it will pay you back. The more you pay into the future, the more you can pay it forward. And that's what we always wanted to, what we always want to be doing. So that's really important as well. And this does talk about boundaries. And I was saying in the beginning of your read that you might really be sitting in this energy and there might be people coming up to you. Oh, did you hear about this? Oh, I saw so-and-so here. Oh, did you hear about what happened at the staff meeting at your old job or the stuff that they're going through? And this is you kind of like having to turn the other cheek and set a boundary and be like, no, keep that away from me. I mean it with all due respect, but I don't care what so-and-so is doing. Keep me out of the grapevine. I don't need to know what's happening at my old job. I don't need to know what's happening with my ex. I don't need to know who you saw where when. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about our plans. There's also a big difference, it feels like, in this newer timeline of spring that you're in, Cancer, of being a lot more mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with as well. People that are also ambitious, people that are also working on their healing, people also that are trying to spiritually ascend and have their inner work reflect to them externally and not constantly be giving a shit about old people, places, and things, right, that don't apply to the present and will not aid in building up the future. So this is also you as part of the, you know, an emperor, even a king, right? They have people around them, security, they're influencers, but counsel. Thank you. They have sound counsel around them, right? People where they all kind of have the same objective. They might have different jobs to do, right? They might be doing different things, but they all have the same objective, which is prosperity. It is abundance. It is longevity. And so I also think that part of you establishing this boundary is realizing that the people that are in your closest of circles, they need to be people that are on a similar vibration as you. People that are, again, ambitious. They're forward thinking. They want to heal. They want new things. They want to walk and sit in the blessing. They don't want to be concerned with the former lessons as opposed to the incoming blessings. And I also think that is going to be really helpful to you. And look, it's the King of Wands, it's the King of Rods, which is the pre-Emperor card. So this does feel like they're saying a power up, and they're showing me like a battery. Now they're showing me Iron Man. That's interesting. They're showing me the Iron Man suit like in the first movie in the beginning when he kind of like makes it in the cave, and then they're showing me like the fancy Iron Man suit after he like gets out of the cave. I don't know if that makes any sense. That might be an Easter egg for someone. It's like Cave Iron Man, Palace Iron Man. I guess that's part of this power up, but the King of Rods is also someone who is really forward thinking. He's ambitious. He has maps. He has plans. He wants to go. He wants to accomplish things. He has a lot of fire in his belly. He's got smoke on his heels. Like he's ready to go. He's ready to do. He's ready to go forge new lands, right? So that seems to be a lot of what you're doing right here. Yeah, and being very mindful of other people who may not know that in which they do, right? Because again, like I was saying in the beginning of your reading, some people, they might not realize that the gossiping isn't really aiding you. They might actually think that you care what other people are doing, or where they saw someone, or what happened at your old job, or in your old neighborhood, or in your old school, or they might actually just think like, oh, this is what we always used to talk about. They might not be able to perceive the change and evolution in you. So they're bringing information and conversation to you that they would have brought in the past, not realizing that you are now a new thing, trying to do a new thing, right? And so it's really through no fault of their own. It doesn't seem to necessarily be intentional, but it is something that you need to be mindful of. And I think that in doing that, that is a big part of how you're going to start establishing a lot of these boundaries to protect your own peace and your own prosperity and longevity. They keep saying longevity. That's part of this 10 of Pentacles, is that the seeds that you're planting in this season, they're not going to be like temporary crops. They're going to be things that are going to rotate. They're saying rotating crops. So they're going to be able to harvest them over long periods of time. These are creative projects. These are relationships. These are things in the new timeline that are going to stand the test of time, where in the old seasons, they didn't, because you were not the farmer that you are now, Cancer. So I'm going to go over on the Patreon, and I'm going to keep pulling cards for you to see what we can get out of your extended. If you're interested in your extended reading, or the monthly readings for March, or the upcoming monthly readings for April, the link to the Patreon is the top one in the description box, with all my social media links. I do different stuff on all of my platforms, so if you have them, it's fun to kind of bop around and follow me there. All the decks I use on the channel, and my email for personal readings in case you want something a little bit more specific and curtailed to you, Cancer. So I love you. I love you very much. I very much hope that you enjoyed this and this was helpful to you. As always, you stay prayed up, and you stay blessed, and you stay sweet, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.